All right, I think we're going to get started, and in the spirit of being respectful of everyone's time, and I know we'll have more people joining us. My name is Mark Bellata, and I have the honor of serving as the CEO of Mass Edco and today's moderator for our fall forum, Apprenticeships, Bridging the Opportunity Gap. For those of you unfamiliar with Mass Edco, we're the Commonwealth's largest provider of community-based education and career readiness services for low-income, first-generation students and adults, each year providing free services to some 12,000 individuals, including 7,000 adult clients through our educational opportunity centers in Boston, Brockton, Lynn, New Bedford, Pittsfield, Springfield, Holyoke, and Worcester areas. We also serve some 5,000 middle and high school students through our Talent Search project in New Bedford, Southbridge, and Worcester, our Gear Up programs in partnership with the Massachusetts Department of Higher Ed in New Bedford, Springfield, Holyoke, and Worcester, and our two privately funded programs, On Our Way, which is working with pregnant and parenting teens in Worcester, and our Collegiate Success Institute, or CSI as we know it, serving some 75 high school juniors and seniors from Worcester. Each year we choose a topic for our fall forum that's relevant to our mission, which is to provide access to educational and career opportunities that empower people from diverse backgrounds to achieve their potential. This year, we're taking a closer look at non-degree career opportunities, more specifically apprenticeships, in 4 distinct areas: construction, healthcare, manufacturing, and technology. But before I turn the mic over to our first panelist, I wanted to take a moment to thank our sponsor, MEFA, and all our colleagues there who are so committed to supporting college-bound students and their families. And to our partners, the Massachusetts Executive Office of Education, the Massachusetts Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development, and the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce. Now, each of our panelists will have 10 minutes to present. Those presentations will then be followed by a Q&A session. So I'm going to ask you to please put your questions in the Q&A section, and hopefully we'll have enough time to get to most, if not all of your questions. It's now my pleasure to introduce Patrick Mitchell, Director of Apprenticeship Expansion and Work-Based Learning with the Massachusetts Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development. Patrick.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Just a quick introduction. I help drive apprenticeship policy in Massachusetts and have oversight of the Division of Apprentice Standards, which ensures the quality of apprenticeship programs for our state. I've been in this role for just over a year, but have been tasked with quite an agenda, including expanding apprenticeship into new sectors like tech, manufacturing, healthcare, and finance, and also increasing the diversity of individuals in our existing apprenticeship programs, of which around 90% are currently in construction. And most importantly, and why I'm here today, connecting more individuals from our education and workforce systems to employment opportunities through apprenticeship. And so I was very pleased when Mark reached out and asked me to be a part of his panel. Coincidentally, it is National Apprenticeship Week, where the goal is to promote the apprenticeship model. And so I'm very excited to share a few new resources the Commonwealth has developed to help spread the word today. Next slide, please. Next slide. So just a real quick primer here. For those of you new to the apprenticeship model, it's a robust earn and learn educational experience. In Massachusetts, this includes a minimum of 150 hours of classroom training, which can be in person or online, and approximately 2,000 hours of mentored on-the-job learning, which equates to about 1 year of hands-on experience. And what makes apprenticeship is that individuals are hired at the onset of their program and then continue to realize wage increases on par with their skill attainment until they've mastered their occupation or trade. And what's great about apprenticeship is when individuals complete their program, or as we'd say journey, they receive a nationally recognized portable credential. This credential is recognized by other employers in a given industry because they know the curriculum is employer driven. The learning outcomes are standard across the industry and approved by the Commonwealth. And employers know precisely what level of skill an individual has from the start of their program until they earn their credential. And the credential can also, in many cases, be recognized as credit for prior learning at community colleges and universities that offer related associate's and bachelor's degrees. Next slide, please. So for an apprentice, what this means is that you are not only immediately getting paid while simultaneously getting a universally recognized education, but you're also not paying tuition or taking on debt. And in most cases, I think as Liz will point out next, these are really great careers with a lifelong earnings potential. And for employers, it goes both ways. There's an investment that's made in an individual and an agreement that if you keep going to school and keep showing up for work, you get paid more. This benefits the employer because the apprentice is learning the industry standards while also getting trained and mentored to the specifics of the company. And the company is going to get a return on investment through increased productivity, through worker retention, and in most cases, have a work environment that prioritizes learning, mentoring, and dedication to quality of work, which can only be good for that business. So I want to stop here and just ask, when I was talking about apprenticeship, I think most of you are probably thinking about a construction worker. I'm going to assume that's the case. I can't see everyone nodding. So I have a question for you. And next slide, please. What did you imagine that she looked like? Maybe she had a different colored hat. It was orange or yellow. There's a lot of myths and misunderstandings about apprenticeship. And not everyone thinks about apprenticeship outside of the construction industry or for everyone. But today, what I hope I can convey is that apprenticeship is not only a great model for learning, but also an opportunity to help get more individuals from different backgrounds, circumstance, or life experience into good paying, meaningful jobs where they can continue to learn. And in short, apprenticeship is for everyone. And in addition to creating more access and opportunity to become an apprentice, the Commonwealth is applying the apprenticeship model to new industries, as I mentioned before, in order to create more pathways to upward mobility. So this is in healthcare and tech and manufacturing that you'll hear about today. And the latter, manufacturing, is probably seeing the most growth recently in adopting apprenticeship in Massachusetts. Apprentices are discovering how high-tech these facilities are, how modern and technologically innovative the manufacturing industry has become. We also have apprentices who become software developers or cybersecurity analysts in tech. We have programs in other sectors as well. We actually just approved a program in biotech where apprentices could eventually become involved in vaccine development. So there's a lot of opportunity that's coming through apprenticeship. Next slide, please. Now, as part of our ongoing work to get the word out on apprenticeship, and again, during Apprenticeship Week, we've developed some materials that I'll share with you today, and you can download them from our website. The first is an overview of apprenticeship in Massachusetts, and this pamphlet, again, downloadable, provides some of the basics that I've talked about so far and many more resources so that you can really dive into the apprenticeship model. It's geared towards policymakers, program developers interested in connecting apprenticeship opportunities to the services that they provide. What is youth apprenticeship? How do you connect CTE programs to apprenticeship? What are some best practices happening in other states? So a lot of great resources for those offering educational workforce services in particular. And along with this pamphlet, we've developed a number of career pathways visuals that highlight what occupations offer apprenticeship in Massachusetts and where they fit in a sector-based career pathway. And so I'll quickly skip through these slides because we don't really have enough time to go through all of them. There's a lot of information there, but I just wanted to preview them for you today. So next slide, please. So here's our construction career pathways and apprenticeship. I think Liz will talk a lot more about this. And note the occupations that are shaded in blue are current apprenticeship offerings in Massachusetts. And next slide, please. We have manufacturing production pathways here. You can see CNC operator is front and center. It's a popular one. Next slide. Manufacturing maintenance here. This definitely overlaps with construction trades, but we wanted to show what opportunities there are in manufacturing, both in production and maintenance. Next slide, please. We have our healthcare nursing pathways here. This is definitely an area where we've seen recent growth, particularly with medical assistants and EMTs, but would like to see many more opportunities developed. You can see there's 2 in blue, and so a lot more opportunity there. Next slide, please. Now, this is our aspirational slide, healthcare therapeutic services, where we'd love to see a respiratory therapy technician in the future. So it's something that can be what we say apprenticeable. You can take an occupation and make an apprenticeship out of it by working with the Division of Apprentice Standards. And next slide, please. Tech, lots of opportunity here. And again, I can't reiterate this enough. You can become a software developer through apprenticeship in Massachusetts. Great opportunities to really get into high growth, high wage careers. You also note on all these, and they are available. I saw a question pop up. They are available on our website. You can download them. You can also click through. So there's more information on job descriptions, what does the growth look like on these occupations, what to expect, what kind of schooling you need, et cetera. I can tell you, again, in the blue, you just need an apprenticeship program. So wanted to share these with you. And then if you go to the next slide, please. So we've also developed, in addition to the primer that I mentioned, these career pathway visuals, a how-to apprenticeship guide that's primarily geared towards career coaches and counselors. And it's a repository of information, including how to use the career pathways with students and job seekers. It's a wealth of information. And I just encourage you to go to our website, which we have listed here, to download the document. Next slide, please. So to close with you today, and I know we'll do more Q&A, is more apprenticeships are developed in our expansion sectors. We'll definitely update our materials and share the information with you. So if we build out finance, if we see more of those therapeutic healthcare occupations become apprenticeships, we'll continue to update and disseminate out these pathways materials. I do want to point out we're always looking for ways to connect apprenticeship back to 2- and 4-year institutions. And so, any way in which an individual can complete an apprenticeship program and get college credit, we look to do that when we develop these new apprenticeships. And another reminder that apprenticeship is for everyone. So please download the materials, share them far and wide with your students, job seekers, anyone who is interested in the apprenticeship model. And next slide, please. There's my contact information. Please feel free to email me, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I can or refer you to the right person. If you're interested in getting more involved in apprenticeship through registering an apprenticeship program with the Commonwealth, you can contact the Division of Apprentice Standards, and we have a team that can really help you get things going. So that is what I have for you today. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Patrick. Someone was watching his stopwatch. All right, if I can have the next slide. I just want to mention to those of you who are listening in that we will be emailing the PowerPoint presentation to all of our registrants because I've gotten that as part of some of the questions that have been coming in. So you will get the PowerPoint. Our next speaker, Liz Skidmore, will be talking a little bit about construction and maybe a little bit about her background if it fits into her time period. Liz, take it away.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for having me and for organizing this, Mark. And I just want to give a shout out to Steve and Rochelle for the back of the scene tech wizardry that they're doing with all this. Thank you so much. I'm Liz Skidmore. I've been a union carpenter for 32 years. Started my apprenticeship in 1989. Worked in the field about 10 years and have worked for the union as a business rep organizer for about 22 years. And I really love apprenticeship. I love construction, and 10 minutes isn't enough to do justice, but I'm hoping it's enough to get some folks who maybe weren't excited about it excited about it. I'm really happy to have this opportunity to speak to career counselors, both in the high schools and at the Mass Hire offices. Some of you I'm probably already connected with, but we really want to build a stronger pipeline. So next slide, please. So this is my hope, to enlist all of you in building a stronger pipeline between your students and clients and our apprenticeship programs. Next slide. So we sort of joke that there's two rooms of people. In the construction industry, there's a bunch of people stressing about where the future workers are. And then in rooms like these, and rooms many of you may be in, are wondering where all the good jobs are. And there are strong pipelines in some places between you all and your sectors and us, but they're not consistent. And we think we can build them much stronger. So next slide, please. Why on earth would I encourage my students or clients to go into construction? Next slide. So we're going to open with a quiz. And unfortunately, I can't see you, but I want you to sort of decide, would you want to send somebody to column A or column B? And column A is the first year apprentice rate for a union carpenter in Boston, which includes, in addition to that first wage rate, there's health, pension, annuity. So they're starting out total package of $38 an hour and $44,000 education for free. And the right hand is kind of a not good minimum wage job, and hopefully makes the point they don't really compare. So next slide, please. So I'm going to take a second on this, just to kind of show a little bit. Patrick mentioned this is progressive wages. So this is back of the envelope. The first box is 12 years working in a year. The journey level pay, again, this is a union carpenter in Boston. It's going to vary a little bit by trade or part of the state. First year apprentice makes 55%. That would be $27 an hour and change. If they're working 2,000 hours a year, that's $55,000 just in wages that first year. So the whole point of the slide is really, these are kind of amazing jobs, and you have to want to do the work. But that's true with anything, but especially folks who don't have a college degree, to be able to work for 4 years, end up with a credential, and have earned almost $300,000 at the same time, and have no debt, and have had health insurance, and be building up a pension all at the same time, is kind of remarkable. And then I put the second box in just because, okay, so we're not all working full time. There are layoffs in construction. So the second box is assuming you worked 8 months out of the year, and you kind of see the math. So I think point made, really good access to good wages and benefits. So next slide, besides the wages and benefits, what are the things that are great about becoming a construction worker? Tremendous satisfaction of hands-on work. And if any of you know anyone in construction, we all drive around where we live going, I built that, I built that, I built that, I built that. And there's a lot of pride in this, which is no small thing. No college debt. There's a lot of camaraderie on the job. The training is really incredible. And for your students coming out of vocational school, we're able, if you use the carpenter's curriculum, they actually get a bump in the apprenticeships. There's a bunch of opportunities there. And then also, this is, you don't need a college degree. And if somebody has a Corey background, basically we don't care. It's not an obstacle to getting into union construction. So it really is one of the last sort of good ways, sort of good working class jobs, to help people kind of move into a family sustaining wage and benefit package. So next slide. All right, if it's so great, why isn't everybody doing it? Next slide. So here's a couple of the challenges. All right, it's confusing. There's 17 different trades. How do I know when the plumbers in Western Mass are accepting application, or the electricians in Central Mass, or the pipe fitters in Eastern Mass? And what the heck is a millwright anyway? So we understand this is confusing. We've sent everybody a one pager, which for covering the whole state. So 3 different one pagers, each geographically based, of when each application, when each apprenticeship is accepting applications. So that can help at least with when are things happening. Although COVID has changed it a lot. And I'll get to where you can get updated information in relation to COVID. So how does somebody choose a trade? So there's a booklet you'll be getting afterwards that has detailed information on what each trade offers, what it requires. And then we have this fabulous website called buildalifema.org that's focused on bringing more women and prioritizing women of color into union construction. But the information on there is completely applicable to anybody. And we've actually gathered 3 to 5 minute videos on each of the 17 different trades. So it could be a great place to send a student or a client who's like, well, which trade do I do? And I'll show you in a minute, you can get on our mailing list at buildalifema.org, and you'll get regular emails showing who is open during COVID. Next slide. The other challenge of this is job seekers don't think they're interested or don't think they're ready. So they may not know these offer really good careers, not just a job that you do till you get something better, but actual, long-term careers with various career ladders. And we hope you can share information from this webinar and other places about that to people. So many people, women and counselors, don't even consider encouraging women to go into construction, and we really hope you'll push that and consider there are tons of women in construction. We've done a lot of outreach, and we now, Massachusetts has, as far as I can tell from the national tracking, we have the highest percent of women in construction in the country. So we're at 9.5%, which isn't high enough, but it's a big jump from the 3% it had been for decades. And there's a lot of work happening to make that happen. And then as much as we need people, it is still competitive. And so one great way, if you've got someone who's very interested, is to encourage them to go to one of the 5 building trades pre-apprenticeship programs. Those are hands-on classes, generally about 6 weeks, generally unpaid but free. And they're all over the state. And they offer exposure to all the trades, certifications like OSHA 10, assistance with placement, some case management, and almost all the trades give significant extra points to graduates of pre-apprenticeship programs. So next slide, got a couple of resources for you. Just want to show you these. Next slide. This is the thing that you'll get. It's about a 30-page booklet after the webinar. Next slide. It gives you some basic information about each, why construction apprenticeship is a good thing. And then it goes into the details about each individual apprenticeship. So that's for those of you who like written materials. Then this is the buildalifema.org website. Excuse me. We have stories. And then on the next slide, you'll see this is the page. We have these adorable little icons, and you click on each of those and you'll get to the video about each trade. And on the next slide, you'll see we would love to have every single one of you at that bottom click here. Are you with an organization that would like more information about opportunities for women in the construction union trades? If you register there, you won't get a lot of emails from us, but you will get a monthly email that includes, next slide, information about every pre-apprenticeship that's opening. So every month you'll get information about which pre-apprenticeships are open. And then next slide, every month you'll get information about which apprenticeship programs are open, which is particularly important given COVID, because many of the apprenticeship programs are making a month-to-month decision. And sorry, if you could go back 2 slides. The other thing you can encourage is, and Build a Life is, again, our targeted effort to get more women into the trades. The information is applicable to anybody, but any women that you have that might be interested, if you have them click the top box, are you women interested in learning more about the trades, they can get that information directly themselves. We actually have monthly information sessions called Tradeswomen Tuesdays in various parts of the state where women get to actually meet current working tradeswomen and go through a presentation and ask questions. So for the high school folks, next slide, some of you may be familiar with Mass Girls in Trades. We started that about 5 years ago. Next slide, we've got a 3-prong approach. We have annual conferences, which we're gonna do online this year because of COVID, but this is photos from one of the Boston conferences. We've put about 800 high school girls through this conference each year in Eastern and Western Mass. We also have equity and trade student councils at a lot of the Voc schools, which give the students and an adult advisor a chance to get together and take on projects. Some of them have gone to the middle school to recruit more girls and boys to go into non-traditional things for their gender, whether that's construction for women or cosmetology or whatever for the guys. All right, next slide. So here is just a little summary of our online resources, Build a Life. Mass Girls in Trades, we don't have a website, but we do have a somewhat active Facebook page. And then Building Pathways Boston is sort of our crown jewel of our pre-apprenticeship programs. And if you are from another part of the state, they can connect you with one more locally. If you're interested in engaging with us more about the policy level work, maybe how to get more people in your organization connected and trained up around this, policy group on tradeswomen's.org, connect with us there. And we have regular meetings where we sort of figure out these kinds of questions. So last slide, there is my contact info, and thank you so much.
Liz, thank you so much. We really appreciate your comments, and I know there's a few questions that we'll be asking of you after our presentations are completed. If I can have the next slide. We're going to move on to healthcare with Jason Pacheco coming to us from Bay State Health. Jason, it's all yours.
Good morning, folks. Are you able to hear me okay? Great. So my name's Jason Pacheco. I am from Bay State Health. If we could have the next slide, please. And the next slide. So this morning, I wanted to offer you, and we'll be talking to you from the employer's perspective about our journey with apprenticeships, the reason they're important to us, and how we've been able to, bridge them to make some gaps work for us in terms of having a workforce supply and being able to train them. But first, just a few quick fast facts about Bay State Health that I thought you might be interested to keep in mind. We're a 4-hospital system in Western Massachusetts. We've got hospitals in Springfield, Greenfield, Palmer, and Westfield. We're actually Western Massachusetts' largest private employer with 12,000 plus employees. And our services include a large medical practices groups, a reference laboratory, and a home health agency. So we kind of span the gamut of healthcare services here in Western Mass. And then just to really sort of the crown jewel, if you will, although no one area is better than the others, we do have a large medical center in Springfield that's a level 1 trauma center. And it's an academic teaching hospital affiliated with UMass Medical School. So as you can see, it's a very complex system with an immense demand for many different types of skill sets. And we work quite frequently with local colleges and a number of workforce development training programs. But one of the real ones that we found that has worked for us is leveraging apprenticeships, building our own apprenticeships, and making them work for us to provide the labor we need. So next slide, please. All right, so just a quick snapshot and milestones along our journey. And again, I'm going to try to illustrate how we've started to use non-traditional apprentices to sort of fill in holes in our workforce. Way back in 2015 and 2016, we started the planning for apprenticeships. But it really wasn't until 2018 when we enrolled our first one, and that was enrolled with the certified pharmacy technicians. That one was our first pilot. It went well. We added in 2019 polysomnography technicians, which are the folks that conduct sleep studies. If you've ever been tested for sleep apnea, those are the techs that test that. We also added a traditional HVAC apprenticeship. Just this year, we added certified medical interpreters and cardiac monitor technicians. And while the numbers have sort of steadily grown over time, we did surpass, a total of 20 plus apprenticeships in the works. As Patrick mentioned, there's a number of different healthcare pathways that are out there. I'd love to be able to take a few of them. In the works, we have patient care technician, community health worker, and we have had some discussion about how do we bridge nursing and apprenticeships. So that is certainly on the horizon, and we'll be working for that in this coming year. Next slide, please. All right, I wanted to show, for those of you that aren't familiar with the different models of apprenticeships, this is my favorite slide that I take out to operational leaders when we're building different apprenticeships. So on that left-hand side, you have your traditional registered apprenticeship. An example of this would be our HVAC apprenticeship, where you have sort of this related technical instruction and then a certain number of hours that the apprentices go through to gain skills over time. So with HVAC, for example, that's 3 years. And then, to the right here is the one that we've been focusing on, and I'm very excited about it. And it's immediate go-to when we start to talk to our operational leaders about leveraging an apprenticeship, and that's competency-based apprenticeships. So in other words, instead of taking, a certain number of hours to get through a training and get through an apprenticeship journey, we build it based on skills. And so we get down to the very nitty-gritty of what is it that the apprentice needs to be able to do to be able to get to that next milestone. We and build sort of that related technical instruction, that 150 hours that Patrick mentioned, as well as the the on-the-job learning that takes place. And we kind of combine that, but it's competency-based. So some folks may finish it in 6 months to a year. Some folks might take a little bit of extra time, but it really, in our experience, really provides the worker with a solid foundation. And we know when they get to that next step, that they're 100% going to be successful because they've mastered all of those particular competencies along their journey. Just some other models down below here that we have options: front loading, having the related technical instruction take place first. And then what's been interesting to see is sort of these pre-apprenticeship models come into being. I know, for example, they're using that with the medical assistant apprenticeships in several neighboring healthcare agencies here in our region. And that's where, before they become an apprentice, they're taking on some additional training and skills, and then they work into an apprenticeship as part of that 150 hours of related technical instruction. So again, lots of different ways to shape apprenticeships, and we've used sort of combinations of bits of these. But from my perspective, the one that seems to work the best is really this competency-based apprenticeship. Next slide, please. All right. So just some key learnings to throw out there. And, I come to this from the perspective of an HR professional that's looking at workforce development for a healthcare system. And so I know many on the call today are guidance counselors or folks that are advising students to go into apprenticeships. I would imagine there might be some employers that are out there that might be interested in sort of the aha moments that we've had along the way. But I think it'll be useful for all parties just to understand what are some of the I gotchas or the lesson learns that we've had. So, we really like to keep things small, particularly when we're starting a new apprenticeship. I may start with just one person in that registered apprenticeship, and it will scale over time if it's successful. But I really try to encourage our leaders to think in ones and twos and not cohorts. That allows us to do different things and to have many different types of apprenticeship programs and not necessarily worrying about trying to get it to scale right off the bat. We're always working with our operational leaders. And so when I sit down, for example, with a pharmacy to come up with a pharmacy technician apprenticeship, it's the actual folks that are doing the work and leading those teams that come up with the competencies that they need to be successful. And so we involve them in every step of the way. On the employer side, that really helps put some skin in the game for those operational leaders. It makes them vested and makes them want to really make sure that those apprentices succeed, because much like Liz had mentioned in her construction, these are the programs that we build, and folks are as just as they are in construction, they're very proud of what they built. And so we involve the operational leaders up front. We also have an opportunity to upskill apprenticeships and upskill the preceptors. So the journey folks that work along the way and partner with those apprentices, it's a great opportunity for them, and that's been very successful. we've actually taken, and as much as I appreciate working with several training providers, particularly the community colleges, we're not afraid to take some of that related technical instruction in-house. And so particularly on our pharmacy technician apprenticeships, particularly on our polysonography technician apprenticeships, we deliver those 150 hours of technical instruction. We deliver those, we've customized them, and we've built them, and those are delivered by educators within Bay State. It gives us immense control over the content that's delivered and really the people that are delivering that instruction, and that's really worked well for us. A lot of times, remember, we're trying to solve workforce gaps and make sure that we have the right people to deliver on the work that we need. And so by having that workforce program developed first, we can then go back to those different models of apprenticeships and decide which one it's going to be. So that's helpful, sort of design with the end in mind and then retrofit it. But I also want to say that apprenticeships are very flexible, and you know, I give credit to the Department of Apprenticeship Standards that's really worked with us to be able to make sure that those apprenticeships can be flexible within sort of the regulatory constraints that we have, and it's really worked out well for us. And then a bit of last bit of advice for anybody that might be developing one. We really work quite closely with the Department of Apprenticeship Standards in terms of registering our apprenticeship. It's also important that you check in with some other state agencies as along the way, particularly the Office of Professional Licensure if you're developing license-based apprenticeships. And so, you know, I hope what this shows you is just sort of the depth and breadth of things that we've been able to do in healthcare that are non-traditional apprentices, and some of the lessons that we've learned along the way. And with that, I'll conclude and I'll turn it over to the next speaker.
All right, thank you, Jason. Much appreciated. Now representing manufacturing, John Kennedy. John, it's all yours.
Good morning, and thank you for letting me be here. I'd just like to kind of talk about the personal experience we've had here at Nellis. And with it's not necessarily called an apprentice program here, it's more a co-op internship. We started this 15 years ago when we had our workforce was changing. We had a lot of people retiring, and we were wondering how we were going to fill those spots. What we decided to do was to partnership with the local area schools and colleges. What we've done it here at this site is we've excuse me, developed this program where we take students in their senior year of high school and have them work there. Instead of doing their co-op, they come and work with us in the our Valve Technology Center here at Nellis in Shrewsbury. And we have them, instead of doing their co-op in school, they come do it with us. They do that their senior year, and what we've done to further that is when they graduate, we've been offering what we call, at the time we were called Mezzo, now we're Nellis, a scholarship to go to Quinn Sig, where we pay them, they work for us part-time and they go to school full-time, and to get their associates in one of the engineering practices. And this is really important to us because the way manufacturing is here in Massachusetts and a lot of the United States is that it's becoming very high tech, and you know, data acquisition is really important to us, and the skills that you need to succeed in this arena, you need additional training. So we decided that by offering the scholarship, we would help partner with the schools and the individuals to further their education to gather the skills that they need. The benefits are that the students get, because we help pay for school, they graduate with very little to no debt, and we in turn gain a lot of insight and new skills from them and it works really very, very well for us to have taken this route. To hire people from the outside to bring them in to train them is really very is very expensive. So when you think about what you're spending, having these students go up to, say, Quint Sig into the engineering program, it's actually more cost effective than having to spend money recruiting. And what's really been the benefit to us is we've got a very engaged workforce, and our retention rate for these students who have come through this program, we've been doing this now for 15 years, and we've retained over 75% of the students who have come through the program that work here. So our lab, which was down to 4 technicians 15 years ago, we now have 10, and we've got 3 interns with us right now that are in the training program. I can't say enough of how beneficial it's been to us. I mean, it's a win-win situation on both parts. The student gets experience and education, and for us, we get the benefits of an educated workforce that we need. I mean, the manufacturers today here in Mass, we're not going to be the cheapest or the most the cheapest manufacturer, when you're competing on a global scale. But we can be the best. And to be the best, we need to have the best education. We need to have the best talent. And, trying to just hire that off, from outside is difficult. It's been really good that we've had this relationship with the schools, particularly Worcester Technical High School here in Worcester. And the Innovation Pathways program has been of great assistance to us as well.
Why don't we take a minute and we'll go back to, actually, we'll move forward with our next slide. And we're going to listen and hear from Kristen Lemire. Kristen.
Thanks, Mark. Can you just confirm you can hear me?
We can.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Thank you for having me today. I will say it's a bit of a blessing and a curse to go last. My former panelists have made some really excellent points, which hopefully I will reinforce in the time that's allotted to me. So first, let me introduce myself, Kristen Lemire. I am representing technology on the panel today, but I actually work at National Grid. For those of you who aren't familiar, National Grid is one of the largest investor-owned utility companies in the world. It provides gas to 10 million customers and electricity to 10 million customers in New York, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. I am representing the company today. I'm a longstanding employee, started as an intern during my undergraduate days, and have been on a professional development path strongly supported by the company ever since. I spent 15 or 16 years maybe now in their information technology organization in a number of different roles and capacities. Primarily, though, I started my career in the control centers doing SCADA work. SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition, and some folks who come from industrial manufacturing might actually be familiar with it because it's not a function specific just to utility companies. At National Grid, we start every meeting off with a safety moment. And I wanted to review with you folks a safety moment that we had a couple weeks ago. It was actually pertaining to germs and health and safety. But what I found most impactful about that safety moment was it was mentioning that we touch our cell phone 2,600 times a day. So think about that. Do you do anything else 2,600 times a day? Maybe you breathe, right? But it just goes to show you now that technology underpins every single thing that we do in life, whether it's personal, social, our professional life. We are connected to the world through that tiny little computer that sits in our hands. So though it was a safety moment, I found it really impactful in reinforcing to me here today with you speaking to technology. So what I wanted to do is go a little bit into my background, and I find it relevant because it does show you all how passionate I am about building the pipeline of our future workforce at National Grid. And so that's why still to this day, though, you know, I've progressed throughout my years at the company, I'm still very, very passionate in developing our pipeline. And that's why I work so closely with Worcester Technical High School, either on their advisory committee, supporting apprenticeships, or again, Drew with Innovation Pathways. So when I was graduating high school, I'll be quite honest, quite humble, I did not necessarily know what I wanted to do. And this was back right before the turn of the century. I literally picked up a book and said, when I graduate college, where can I get a job? And so at that time, obviously, technology, software engineering were really big areas of study. So I said, I like math. I also like to read. Went into school originally as a math major and wanted to do actuarial science. And my advisor at the time said, well, you should take a look at computer science. So I started to do a little computer science coursework. My first programming language was Ada, and that's really dating me compared to what students are learning today. But, you know, again, I'll just say technology underpins everything that we do. So having had that coursework, I honestly felt that the opportunities were endless. And as you listen to the prior panelists speak, manufacturing, healthcare is, you've got that baseline of technology, whether it's the manufacturing equipment that we're programming for quality control, or it's the tests that we run in our hospitals, in our ICU units that give us information about the health of our patients. So it was about 10 years into my career at National Grid, I connected with Worcester Technical High School, and we actually launched the first apprenticeship program in the United States at National Grid. So our UK counterparts across the pond had been doing it for quite some time, and I connected with a colleague who was working with me in critical national infrastructure for the control rooms. And we talked a little bit about the success of the program in the UK. And I said, well, why don't we do this in the US? Why do we require any of our potential new hires to have a degree when there's a number of opportunities across the company where we could take students who've had even just the slightest exposure into the field of work and develop them? And it's not only to further their education, but I thought that it was really impactful in a sense that we were teaching these students at a fairly young age how to come into an office every day, how to interact with their colleagues of all years of experience, from you know, junior colleagues to senior colleagues, to interact with those of varying levels of diversity. So that's been really the best feedback that we've gotten from our apprentices at National Grid over the years. They love coming into the office and learning not only just the technical skills required to be successful in the workforce, but also the social skills, I think, is really, really important. And we're empowering them and we're increasing their confidence. Next thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about is that pipeline at National Grid. So I myself started as an intern, then we launched the apprenticeship program. But I also want to talk about how we see our students and recruits through that pipeline all the way to success. And a little bit's on my personal story, and a little bit is about opportunities that National Grid has developed since then. So we have the apprenticeship program. We have a very robust intern program. This past summer, despite all of the COVID challenges of going remote, we were able to employ 181 interns this past summer in a fully remote capacity. We've also got a program that's called Graduate Development Program, And this is a program that can be offered to former apprentices, former interns who've now completed a degree program. And these students, it's GDP, are able to rotate through different opportunities in the company. And specifically on the technology front, we have individuals that do program management, they do cybersecurity work, and they also do data and analytics. So it gives them the opportunity to rotate through multiple areas of work and find something that suits them the best. We also have additional programs like a leadership development program for students who aspire to executive positions. And we also have an accelerated development program, very similar, folks who want to broaden their focus to business in general, which may include finance or HR. So the opportunities are quite endless, but I talked a little bit about the success of the intern program, and I want to go back to that. We conducted this summer a student insights panel, more so specific around COVID-19, but what I found was really enlightening was around the insights we received from the students about what they seek for employment in 2020. So we found that over 70% of our students said job stability and secure employment are more important to them now than ever. And so those were rated higher than compensation, work-life balance, company prestige, and work location. So it's I go to show that these students are really excited to get in at a junior level and grow and learn with a company, which was very different from when I joined National Grid and folks, the millennials were jumping around. So students today are looking for employment stability, and they're looking for a company that they can grow and learn with and develop their future careers. I know that I am coming up on my allotted time and didn't get to cover. I could talk for forever. So happy to answer any questions when we get to the Q&A, but I hope that just scratched the surface a little bit around technology and some of the work that we're doing at National Grid to develop our future employees.
Hey, Kristen, we're doing pretty good on time if you want to take another 5 minutes.
Mark,
up to you.
Putting me on the spot. No, so I'll take a couple more minutes and then you can give me the stage hook. So I'll talk again specifically about IT at National Grid. So we've got about 1,200 of our employees. We've got a workforce of about 10,000 in the US, about 1,200 global employees between the US and the UK in IT. We have a fabulous global CIO by the name of Adriana Karabutis. She comes to us from Ford Motors and Dell, and she has built out the workforce to where there's any number of opportunities. So I spoke to my work in critical national infrastructure using SCADA and databases so that we could automate the grid to some extent and give better visibility from our control room operators out to the field and the performance of our grid. We've also got a team, and I'm sure a number of you who are familiar with technology understand how hot data and advanced analytics is today. So we're collecting data at all times. Your thermostats are collecting data. Your cell phone is collecting data. We all know it. But how do we use that data for the betterment of our work processes and our society and our health? So that is a really, really great work. We're doing a lot of work in the customer space, understanding our customers' preferences and behavioral habits. We have a software engineering. So we've recently adapted agile delivery, which allows us to deliver to our business, our organization, a minimum viable product. And from there, we take feedback and we seek continuous improvement on that product. And this is different from what we call in the software engineering space waterfall delivery, where we had to have all of the requirements and all of the development and all the defects resolved before we would give our customers anything to work with. So agile allows us to be exactly that, agile, however, constantly creating a better product for our customers. And I can assimilate that again to the cell phone. So Apple gives you your cell phone, but is constantly producing updates for the betterment of the performance of the phone and to increase your user satisfaction. We're doing a lot with advanced automation today. So we're using robotics, which is RPA, to understand how we can use machines to automate processes, to make work practices safer and to make them more efficient. We have a very, very large, as you can assume, cybersecurity organization within National Grid that is always looking at how to better protect our customers, better protect our infrastructure, stay ahead of any potential threats to that, and to constantly understand how we can protect our business, our office workers, and our customers from any number of threats that may be in the landscape. And lastly, I'll speak to DevOps. So DevOps is constantly out on the market seeking better platforms and better solutions for our business and our customers. So recently, they've embarked on a integration with Salesforce, which is a very large customer data management platform, where we use that to cloud host a lot of our technologies and services that are used by our business. We have SAP, which some folks might be familiar with as an enterprise, shared services platform. So finance, HR, payroll is all processed through large systems called SAP. And then what we're doing is also embarking on a journey to replace some fairly archaic customer billing systems. So that's a result of legacy companies coming over the years. And so we're working on improving those areas as well. And so, I speak to those opportunities and I speak to those platforms, but I would imagine that a number of the other panelists here with me also utilize a number of those business functions and a number of those platforms that I spoke to in their business. Most certainly healthcare and manufacturing, I would assume.
Kristen, I'm going to pause you for a second.
Yes,
I think
sir.
we're gonna thank you for those additional comments. I think we're going to move on to our questions. Can I have the next slide? Thanks. There's that reminder that it's National Apprenticeship Week. So I'm going to go back to the beginning, and the first question is going to be for Patrick. How are employers supported to provide quality learning experiences?
Sure. So I'll give a brief answer and punt a little bit. So for construction, I think Liz did a great job of presenting on different joint or union affiliated programs. They definitely support the employers, the contractors in the delivery of the curriculum to ensure that it's a really quality program. That's what they're there for. It's been working for nearly 100 years here in the United States. So really great resources for those employers or contractors through the joint programs. ABC is an organization that assists contractors who do not have joint programs or union affiliated apprenticeship programs, so that those employers can set up really quality mentoring and educational or on-the-job training programs. So the resources are definitely there with our intermediary, what we consider our intermediary partners. In the expansion industries, you know, a lot of what we see is that employers are, and I'll get a little technical here, employers are the sponsors themselves. So they're offering the training even in-house. They're coordinating a lot of the logistics around the apprenticeship model, and they've built in, you know, a learning development model that's part of their overall, you know, professional development strategy. So we definitely see some quality programs coming from those employers themselves. But Hampden County, the Workforce Board, the Mass Hire out in Springfield provides a lot of supports, particularly in the manufacturing sector, healthcare sectors, to employers who want to develop those programs. They help them set them up from A to Z. The North Shore Workforce Board up in North Shore, Merrimack Valley, a lot of work up there, again in manufacturing, but also many other sectors. They help employers set up their programs, ensure that they have quality programs. And then our office has been working closely with Greater New Bedford to get them, the Workforce Board there, to begin to offer services for employers who want to build out these quality programs. And then I know I saw Jeff Turgeon on the webinar out of the Worcester Mass Hire, and I know he's gearing up to, you know, assist, and I'll put him on the spot here, but I think he's gearing up to assist employers, and, you know, we'd love to see more growth in apprenticeship in Worcester and some services there, and, you know, potentially the chamber even coming in and helping promote apprenticeship. And you know, we're also happy to do, and you know, I do these get on webinars where we you know, present the apprenticeship model to employers, and, you know, really define what apprenticeship is. And, you know, we could certainly, you know, lend some guidance to employers of how to set up these quality apprenticeships. So that's my long answer to your question. I don't know if Liz or others want to add to that as well.
All right, if not, I'm going to go on to the next question, and panelists can feel free to chime in at any point. This question was posed while Liz was speaking. Is there an effort to work with youth in non-school academic settings? Liz.
Reality, probably not enough. We have folks who can do that, and are, and again, my slice of this, I'm a union carpenter, so particularly the carpenters, and then also particularly getting more women into these good careers. Although again, most of what I do applies to anybody. But we absolutely have this Tradeswomen Tuesday information session that people of any age could come to. There are some parts of the country that have done summer camps for girls in the trades to expose them. We're actually interested here, but need some more partners in that to make that happen. So I think the thing is, if you're connected to a entity that serves younger folks, feel free to reach out to us, and we can try to figure out, like, we've done some talk at Girl Scout troops, that kind of thing. But we've been so hungry to get more folks who are ready to go into the apprenticeship in the next year or two, that we haven't had the bandwidth to reach to the younger students, although I completely agree it's important.
Thanks, Liz. Our next question is for Jason. Do healthcare apprenticeships replace the one-year certificate programs available at some community colleges for the apprentice?
And I would say that the answer really depends. It depends on the program. So I'll give two examples. In our certified pharmacy technician training program, we actually have the floor for entry that they'll have received that non-credit, certified pharmacy technician for entry, and then our apprenticeship really takes them through an advanced course on the sterile compounding and the advanced competencies that they'll need in an inpatient pharmacy. So in that instance, it doesn't, because we actually ask them to go and take part and have some sort of a certification before they come in. On polysonography technicians, remember that's the folks that conduct sleep studies and measure brain waves, for example. They get that certificate and that registration by going through our training program. And so they don't necessarily get that from a community college. And one of the benefits to the employees going through that program is they get that registered credential from the Department of Labor that's transferable across state lines. And so in that sense, yes, it does replace that particular credential that they may have gotten by going to a community college.
Great, thanks. Patrick, I'm going to throw this next question to you because I think it's a more broader question. It has to do with when a student completes high school, that kids don't get a diploma without the MCAS, they get a certificate. Is this an issue? The certificate versus the diploma?
Not that I'm aware of. Liz shared, at least for the, where most of the apprenticeships are in the construction industry, Liz shared a pamphlet that they have available, and that has all the minimum requirements for apprentices to get into those programs. Generally it's a high school diploma or an equivalent that employers are looking for, but employers define what they're looking for. I haven't seen where that's the issue, but there's 700 different programs. I don't know the specifics of all of them, but I don't think that would be a barrier.
All right, thanks. I'm just going to remind folks to go ahead. Go ahead, Liz.
I've texted my apprenticeship director. I didn't even know that was an option I didn't know the connection with, sorry, I don't have kids, and the diploma and the MCAS. So if I get an answer from my apprenticeship director before the end of the webinar, I'll let folks know.
Great, thanks. I just want to remind people that you should put your questions in the Q&A. And if you have a question for a specific panelist, if you can put that panelist name as well. The next question is for Kristen. How does National Grid recruit apprentices among those without a college degree?
Yes, thank you so much for the question. So at present, it's through a direct partnership with Worcester Technical High School. We would like to absolutely expand that and open that up to ideally areas outside of technology and bring on more recruits. But we wanted the program to be as successful as possible. So to kick it off, we did start small. But I did want to mention at the end of my session, so I'll say it now, if you have an idea for an opportunity, please reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn and direct message me. So I welcome the collaboration.
Great, thank you. To Jason, regarding healthcare apprenticeships, are there comparable opportunities available in Worcester that you might know of?
I've heard of a few. I believe CVS has a number statewide, particularly on pharmacy technicians, that would be worth checking out. Patrick mentioned the Hampden County Workforce Board, the Mass Hire Hampden County Workforce Board, and I know that they don't just work in Hampden County, and so it might be worth connecting with them to see if they have some additional apprenticeships that are out in the Worcester area as well.
All right, I have one follow-up question for you, Jason. For CNA and personal home care aid, can you apply without a high set? I'm in youth builds.
Well, you can always apply. Unfortunately, today our current job descriptions does require on a for the certified nursing assistant and the home health aide, which would be the closest thing that we have to a personal care assistant. They do require either a high school diploma or the HiSET/GED. However, I will say one of the initiatives that we have this year is to go back and take a look at our job descriptions for barriers for entry. And for those particular direct entry patient care roles, it'll be interesting to see, but it's up for debate and discussion whether or not we remove some of the requirements such as that. And that one particular one may come up. So more to come in the future.
Great, thank you. For Kristen, kids who go to other technical high schools in Massachusetts, do they have the opportunity to get involved with an internship or apprenticeship with National Grid? This is coming from someone at Madison Park Technical Vocational High School in Boston.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for the additional context. Yes, as I said previously, please reach out to me directly. Again, I'm quite passionate about the success of this program at National Grid, and have had really positive support from our HR and recruiting teams. I will say, I know we have gas operations out in the Boston area, but sometimes travel and having the student apprentice get to the job site has been an issue. So local proximity is always something that I try to consider when we're placing candidates in roles.
Great, thank you. I had a question about daycare. If any of the panelists want to tackle this one, have you been able to offer daycare for folks who are enrolled in your apprenticeship programs? If so, how does it work? If not, is it something that you're taking a look at? Are you seeing it in any of the other industries that you might be working with? I'm going to throw that open to all of the panelists.
I'd be happy to start. And just to piggyback one piece on the co-op question a minute ago, for a long time, the union apprenticeships couldn't quite figure out how to do co-ops with the high schools, and we're figuring it out now. So I think the electrical IBW union is doing co-ops. We are now doing co-ops. So if there are high school folks on the construction side who are interested in co-ops, that's now an option with a lot of the union building trades, and we're happy to talk to folks about that. Regarding childcare, I'll tell you, for construction, it's been particularly challenging because mostly our jobs start at 7. At some point, we did a survey of licensed care in Massachusetts, and I think 2 places in the state opened at 7. And by the way, you're supposed to be at work at 7, not dropping your kid off at 7. So we actually have a new, it's a pilot, it's a 3-year pilot, it's for Greater Boston. We've built a small network of childcare providers, so they're licensed home-based family care providers who will be open at 5:30 in the morning. And we actually got our first child in care about a month ago. Things were delayed a bit because of COVID, as you can imagine. And it's actually the child of a single dad who's an electrician apprentice and needed care. And so his kid is the first one in care. So the website for that is carethatworks.org. I'll put that in the chat. And it's only Greater Boston, but it's a 3-year pilot, and it will have licensed childcare that's open construction hours, and we're very, very excited about it.
Great, thanks, Liz. Anyone else want to comment on daycare? All righty, there being no other comments on daycare. If there are any other questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A, but I'm gonna wrap this up a little bit. First,
Mark, can I add one more thing?
Go ahead, Liz. Go ahead.
So many things to talk about. I mentioned in my presentation, I meant to, for clients or students or parents of students, Patrick sort of mentioned this about the connection with college degrees. All of the building trades apprenticeship programs have connections, forgetting the name of the contract, with colleges. Most of us have them with Wentworth, which, if you're not familiar, is kind of the MIT of construction management. And And then we also, there's a couple of community college consortiums that we have partnerships with. So what it means is your folks get credit for completing the apprenticeship, number one. So they get credit for free for having done the apprenticeship. And number two, any additional classes they want to take, there's a significant discount. So for Wentworth, it's about a third off. And the classes at Wentworth that are part of this program are designed for people working construction hours. So those classes are evenings and weekends. So they're really incredible programs. And not to brag about another union, but the painters have actually turned their apprenticeship into a college. So they're now not .edu, and they're an accredited college. So there's no transfer required at all, but you can get your associates and your bachelor's degrees. So there are career pathways through the trades in a much more significant way over the last, say, 5 years than there ever were before.
Great, thank you. Patrick, I'm going to throw this next question to you because it's sort of a broader question. Are there any apprenticeship programs that also offer ESL advanced classes to those individuals who may have all other qualifications but need to improve their English skills? So we'll start with Patrick, but if any of the other panelists have some comments on that, we would welcome that.
Sure. Offhand, I'm not familiar with specific programs, but this is definitely something where we would love to see more growth in to ensure that we're being more inclusive in apprenticeship programs and learning and job opportunities in general. But for Carmen, this is something I can look up for you and see if I can find some specific programs. So if you want to email me your inquiry, I can definitely look into that for you. But offhand, I can't think of any.
Any other panelists
Hi,
want to respond to that?
This is Jason Pacheco. I just wanted to add that we have had some success not delivering the ESL as part of the apprenticeship program, but at Bay State, we've had some separate ESL classes that have been offered to our frontline workers. And then we've turned around, and after they've graduated those ESL classes, we've recruited them into apprenticeships. One's actually particularly working as a medical interpreter right at the moment. And so not part of it, but separate, and then use that as a recruitment tool to get them into apprenticeships.
Great. Thanks, Jason.
I would add, I think it's an ongoing need. I really appreciate somebody raising it as a question. The carpenters are now offering more and more classes in Spanish, which has been a little controversial, if you maybe can imagine, but I'm really thrilled about it. We offered an ESL class for our members for a long time, and then if we had any openings, we gave it to the city of Boston because there's a shortage of ESL classes. But in the end, we actually had trouble filling those classes. So it may be time to try that again. But we are hiring more bilingual staff. We're hiring more people of color and female staff for the union and within the apprenticeship. And so we're being able to teach more classes, which is particularly critical around the safety classes, because if you can't understand the safety class, it's harder to work safely. So it's not where it should be, but it's making some progress.
Great. Thanks, Liz. All righty. I think I'm going to wrap this up. First, I want to thank our panelists for your expertise and your willingness to participate in trying to educate those of us who are working with high school students and adults on some type of post-secondary education plan. I also want to thank our technical staff, Rochelle and Steve, for your assistance in making this seem so smooth. I want to mention a few folks that were on the committee to help plan this: Mary Blute and Heather Courtney from Worcester Tech, as well as Karen Pelletier from Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce. And once again, I want to thank our friends at MEFA for supporting this. We will be sending out the PowerPoint presentation to those who registered. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to give us a call or to send us an email. All righty. Well, listen, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And that will conclude our presentation on apprenticeships. And happy National Apprenticeship Week, everybody. Take care.